Thanks once again for joining me on the channel. Welcome to the International Harvester build. This truck has been affectionately dubbed Bonnie and Clyde. And why would we call it that? Well, because it's got a ton of bullet holes in it. From the inside, from the outside. Somebody had a grand old time with this. And we would leave these windows in, but it's just not safe, even though it looks cool.
Let me give you a little background on Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde sat in this spot in the woods for 40 years. This truck had trees trying to reclaim it, strangle it if you will, pull it back down into the earth, and they saved it. They drug it out and brought it here. Our buddy that owns this truck actually grew up with it. It was in their family. He learned how to drive a manual transmission because it belonged to his father. And then it sat in the woods all those years until they finally brought it here to Ohio so that I could save it.
But first things first, we gotta get this body off and this chassis out. So come along. The grill of this international truck, not only is it bent up, but it's curled over. If you look right here, that's curled. It has to look like that when I'm done. So I have to pull it all apart and heat it and pound on it and get that to resemble a normal fender, because right now it just looks like a fat lip.
But before we get into that, let me introduce you to the donor vehicle. This is the 2007 HEMI powered two-wheel drive Dodge Durango, and we're going to use this as the underpinnings for this old rusty truck. And we're going to put these two together, take a look at the inside. You know, this one's kind of filthy, but realistically it's pretty clean. A lot of these are rusted out, rotted, they just aren't worth a damn, but this was a good one, although currently it is covered in salt. I mean, the air cleaner, that's good, gives you a nice indication of whether or not it was taken care of. It's got reasonably low miles. 130,000 I think is all. And I've seen these with 220, 240. I think there's one out there with 3 something. So yeah, we know they run, as long as you keep them out of the salt and stop crashing them into things. This one's had a mild front end impact.
So yeah, it's pretty simple. Just remove everything not shaped like an international pickup truck. See the size of this HVAC system? It starts right here. That's air intake in there. These are all ducts that are built into the dash. See how far back that goes? But this now can come out, but you can't take it out. You gotta flip it forward and unscrew all of the wire brackets, because you need every bit of this harness. That'll work, usually. Yeah, there's the monster right there. Look at the size of that thing. That's simple. Easy. Just don't cut nothing, because you need it. So the key is, remember, remove everything that doesn't look like an international. If you make your cuts strategically, technically a two-person job becomes a one-person. only mildly dangerous. Yeah, I've done that a couple of times, so I know exactly where to cut them, where it's double layered, and how to get them. But it still takes a couple days to get these down. Because I have to get these off. These running boards and these side edges, both of those have to come off because the cab that's going on this floor pan is narrower. So the floor pan gets cut right here and then right there. The back half is gone, that becomes bed, and these two side door jambs, these sills, they get gone. Okay, so that can sit there, and I can cut these off. Once I get these two sides off, that's it for today, because I need somebody to help me load this stuff, and then when they're here, I'll cut this last floor pan piece out. And then all this will get trimmed. I know where to cut them. It's actually right here. This goes down just, but anyway, the cab will go down over top of it. And then I have to relocate the pedal box because it needs to go over, and you can't, that's not enough. So it all gets welded to the firewall of the International cab when it's all said and done. The main reason these things ride so good when you're done is because you leave the factory body mounts. This is the very back of the cab, well it will be, and this last strut remains with this rubber insulator, and then the front of the cab with its rubber insulator. So the cab is actually on the frame in rubber, not just welded to it. You gotta know where to cut it, of course, but it's pretty straightforward, except it ain't straight. So there you have it, the first rough drop down of the cab onto the frame. Obviously this needs to match this, and it will, but I first have to carefully slice these, and then I can set the cab height. But I'm not going to set the cab height until we get rid of these gaudy 20-inch wheels that I do not like. We've got some really cool wheels coming that will look really good underneath this truck. So this whole mount strut gets halved, and I save this rubber insulator and it gets halved, and then I cap it, and then I match it to this piece, if you can see in there, this piece. So but for right now, so I can move the whole unit around, that's as far as that goes. It's the start of a new, very cold day today, but what I have to do is get that water pump out of there. I gotta put all 16 plugs in it, change the exhaust manifold studs, as you can see down there. They're pretty much smoked. Yeah. We're going to do an oil change, basic service. The water pump's the big item. I think we're still waiting on a fuel pump, which goes in there. Look how clean this truck is. It's crazy. The ones we normally get up here in the north, all of this is complete rust color. This is one of the cleanest Durangos we've seen. Once I do the service, fire up the engine, the wheels should arrive this week. When the wheels come, I'll pull those off and we'll set the cab. But for right now, let's get to the service. It's not very exciting, so we'll check in here a couple of times and move on to the next step. Some of those plugs haven't been apart in 15 years. Bit of spaghetti then. On these HEMI compressors, there's a bolt down here that most people forget. So that you take these two fronts off and they're prying and they can't figure out why it won't come off because there's a bolt back there holding it to the top of the intake. And this one looks like someone broke it already. So this has been off, which it's black. Normally they're silver like the rest of the truck, so I don't know if this is aftermarket, but it's got a good, the pump itself's got a good feel. So the bolt's broke. Looks like it broke off in the head, actually. Well, you don't need that. I mean, you do. Chrysler says you need it, but I've broken them off a couple of times. That's how I know. And they always work. So let me just get this off the rest of the way. Ah, yikes.
There's always one pesky bolt that won't come off, and I see no reason to pull this power steering pump, although it probably would make it easier. All that goes down into the pan. Let me take that bolt out of there. Check out this impeller, which it feels okay, but the time to replace something is before it fails.
This one's better. It's got a metal impeller rather than plastic. It's a better unit. So anyway, remember that stupid bolt? I suggest we do this first. Carefully poke the toothpicks. Actually, you can probably do this. Sure.
Mint.
Okay, remember we were talking about broken exhaust manifold bolts. Today's the day I'm gonna mess with that. First, let me show you the heat shield. So they have these studded bolts here that these 10s hold the heat shield on. But as you can see, this one's broke off part near flush with the head. This one's got a bit of meat length left on it. So at any rate, I'll deal with that in a minute, but I'm about ready to pull the exhaust manifold off and see how much of these bolts. 2 of them are broke off that I know of. There might be 3. So if this comes off, we'll see how much meat is sticking out, and I can deal with the broken stud. Probably. There you go. Okay, so there's that. So this one right here, that should be easy. They're never really that tight. So I should be able to get this out with channel locks. But this one, it's broke off flush. The good news is it's not this one. Because if it's this one, I couldn't get a drill in there. This, I might be able to get a drill in there and easy out that. I hope so, because if I can't get that out, this cylinder head's got to come off, which means you might as well take the engine out, put it on a stand, regasket the whole thing, give it a good service. So I hope I don't get into that, but let's find out. So you can see, well, you should be able to see, I center punched it close as I can get it, and then I'm going to use an easy out with the right drill bit and hopefully make that work. Cross your fingers. That should be enough. Guess what, fellas? It's spinning. If anyone asks you, do you feel successful in life? Your answer should be yes, if you've ever done that. up is going to be the one on the driver's side. And I know it looks like there's less room in there, and there is, but that ABS module can be pushed out of the way, so it shouldn't be too bad. As long as we can get them all out without drilling, we'll be in good shape. So let me get that done. We'll get right back here.
Fits right in there. Got all the bolts on. Any of the broken ones came right out. Piece of cake. On to the next thing. I'm just going to swap out these front shocks. We'll do the backs when I spin this thing around. Next up, the fuel pump. It arrived. It's pretty easy when there's no bed on the truck.
Yeesh. Instructions. Like what? What's it want? Have a fire extinguisher ready. Check pump pressure. Cleaning, yeah, whatever. Okay. Stop. That says don't blow yourself up. All right. So it gives us, yeah, see, that's the filter element down there for big filters, and then there's a sock down at the bottom. There's literally like almost nothing in there, one little speck. I'm going to use that. This was in this way. So let's do this. There it is. Bingo. That's you, buddy. This, that's obviously for the factory. This is what it came with. So I'm using that. Bingo. That's it. It's all the way down. Can you imagine doing that when the truck's all put together? You got to drop this tank. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do. Way better to do it now. Okay. Bingo. Done. The wheels and tires came today, so I'm going to get these open, see what they look like, see if they fit, and if that happens, then I can get the cab set at its height. And then I can get all this crap cut off and welded and tacked in so we can get ready to pull this thing out under its own power, which would be super cool. Alright, so what I did was take one lug nut off, and as you can see, these things are big. And I brought it over here to the new wheels, which that's only an 18-inch rim, but it's bigger than the 20-inch rims. So let's hope there's enough back spacing and it clears that upper ball joint along with the brakes. It should, but should is like almost. Okay, so what we have here is the factory lug nut. And it's a no-go. So, okay, those aren't going on today. On to the next thing. While I'm waiting, I decided to get the trimming done on the floor pan to make the two surfaces come a lot closer together. And when I pull that board out, I'll be able to lower the cab down and it'll go over the Durango floor pan. That way you got an adjustment, and then hopefully by the time I get that done, those lug nuts will be here and I can put those wheels on and we can set the height. Because then it's literally, you know, a day or two and I'll be able to fire this up and drive it out of here, which is the goal. Let's do a burnout. So that's not terrible. It'll end up getting trimmed even a little more yet before it's all welded together. And then I still have to deal with this ledge here. This is actually a vent that opens up for ventilation, and also it will collect some rainwater, and there's a drain on the bottom of it, and I want to make sure that that drain goes outside of the cab so they don't get a puddle. But yeah, that's not a terrible start to the fitment. You'll end up having an ECU here and a battery here. Air cleaner is going to go around the corner and in. Now I can set the height, but I got to get the fenders in here and eyeball them, see how it works. Here's the front fender. As you can see, it's really smashed. and it needs to be straightened out. So rather than just try to find one and buy it, I'm going to take this piece of old railroad track, this claw hammer, a 3-pound hammer, and what I think is a 6-pound sledge. I'm not sure. It'll work. It'll all work. I wish I had somebody to hold that fender for me while I work the metal with hammers, which I do not. So this ought to be fun. Let's start pounding. All right. That's first, I would like to get this off so it's out of my way. So let me do that first. But I don't know if you can see, this is a big crease that goes all the way through here. I might heat it, but let me see how it acts once I start pounding it with a hammer. But first, let me take this off. Hang on a second. Well, looks like an easy way would be this down. Okay, that's progress. Now if I just start hitting this here, it's going to go in, and we don't want that. So I think I want to start hitting this because it should spread. If it starts diving this edge in, I'm going to have to use some other form of mechanical advantage. Which I do have one of those stud guns that welds a little thing and you slide hammer them forward. But I don't even know if it works. Someone gave it to me. So right now I know this will work, so let's do that. Chunks of probably old spiders are going in my shirt. It's cracked here, but that's all right. We can weld that out. This is all so thin. That crunch has been there for so long, but that's all right. Yeah, this will all come out. This is so thin that I'll end up making a patch for it, it looks like. That's all right. No big deal. We'll just keep pounding, see what happens. I mean, it's turning into a fender. This edge is out, which I can roll back in. This all has to be beat flat. This all needs to be beat flat. But I'm not too upset by that so far. Yeah, we'll get there. They make body dollies for this. I just don't have any because I don't know why I don't have them. They're pretty cheap, but I guess probably because this works. There are guys that are so skilled at this, they could make this nearly smooth. And I suppose if I kept going I could, but the reality is it's a patina truck with a chassis swap, and the story of this vehicle is that it sat in the woods for 40 years. So you're never going to restore it. Which is fine by me. I just like saving them. I mean, if you look down at it, it's starting to look like a fender, where before it had this eyebrow. All this will get tacked welded. I might even put a patch over it, but regardless, we're getting there. Things are happening. starting to look like a fender. And that edge isn't terrible. I think, honestly, I could probably bolt this to the grill and then make final adjustments with it on. Because, I mean, overall, it's returning to the shape. This, that'll curve a little more. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's close to a fender. I mean, that isn't hateful for a first attempt. So that's looking pretty good, wouldn't you say? Almost like I've done this before. That's better. This is obviously torn, which I'll get to that. I want to bolt the grill on, and then once it's bolted in, I can tack it in a couple spots and then patch it or stitch weld, whatever I got to do. But the wheel choice, those guys nailed it. This was a copy, the size was a copy from the green truck that we recently did. The other two-wheel drive version of this. But as you can see, it's going to end up going together like perfect. The patchwork is so minimal. And then it's going to have running boards too, which will be down to the bottom of the fender. So like right there goes straight across to the bed. So the truck will look lower than it is right now. It seems like the cab's sticking up in the air, but don't worry about that. Once you put the running boards on it, it levels the whole thing out and it'll look sweet. So I'm pretty stoked. Let me get that front assembled and see what it looks like. I swear this lines up so good. I love the look of the fat tires flush with the fat fenders. I just think it's awesome. These things, they look aggressive. They drive like race cars. I mean, when you trail brake going into a corner and then go wide open throttle on corner exit, it's like you're driving a race car. So, I mean, I'm super pumped about the way these go together. Okay, so I pounded and did magic. And there you go for now. I still have to, if you look close, I still have to patch all that. There's going to be like a corner, almost like patches on your jeans when you were a kid. That's what's going to be there. I'll rust it up and get it to match, but this is all together right now because the goal is to get the cab height set correctly. And if you don't get the fenders right first, you'll bolt everything on and the truck will look stupid. So that's why I go to these great lengths to mock this up before I weld that cab to that floor. Because it's got to look right. You know, when you walk up to it 10 feet away, the line has to be clean. So I now know that the rear of the cab has to go down about 1.5 inches, that's normal. And I see that the gaps are not exactly right, which means the whole thing goes back about 1 inch and it'll be dead center. But everything is mocked up. One big ugly spot on this truck is this blue hood. I can't stand it. It throws the whole look of the truck off. It's just, if the whole truck was that color, that'd be a different story. But you already got like a blue and a red and a rust and a whatever. So I'm gonna knock that blue paint down with a DA and I'm gonna blend it with some other colors to get it close so that it kind of matches this truck. Because right now, if you put this hood on, you'll have to gouge your eyes out with a screwdriver because it's just gross. So let me see what I can do. This is a basic mock-up of this truck. I can tell, I call it the imaginary body line, but it's basically you pick any spot on any truck that you're building. and you look down the line, and you can pick this as an eyeball, or this, or just the overall presence of the truck. And when you look at it, this one right now has too much rake. Obviously nothing is perfect, like the pitch of the whole front end and fore and aft, it's not perfect, but I can tell if I were to weld this in position now, this truck would be too high in the back and it would look stupid. It might look great when you're towing a big ass trailer, but we're not doing that. This is going to be a street cruiser with a little rake. So the way that I deal with it is, on this particular truck, there's a cab strut that goes along and it's sitting on the floor of the Durango floor pan. That's also rubber mounted, so it insulates when I weld them together. It's still on factory rubber mounts, which makes these things great to drive. 1.5, 39 3/4, 39 3/4. 21.5. That's it. That's set. And I know it is. And it's got just enough rake. I can tell already. All I gotta do is not touch it and weld it in 4 spots to hold it together. Cab is resting on the floor and it's attached in 3 spots. So in theory, they have become one. The front, these fenders and the grill are just propped up because I got adjustment in here to pitch when I put the hood on. Can't put the hood on because these straps are in here, but I now know for sure that it's not going to fall. And then I can get rid of this business and clean up and start fine-tuning. Anchor the front end, patch this, put the shocks on, throw all that bundle of wires on here, put a battery on it, fire it up and move it. Looks like a truck. Sort of. HEMI powered Bonnie and Clyde, right? So that's basically how it's going to sit, pretty much within an inch in any direction. I absolutely love the wheels. What a cool choice. Steering column, that's about where it's going to go. I got to put the seat in and test it. Pedals will come down a touch. Trim that back edge. We got the new shocks on. Fuel pump. Rims and tires. I spend as much time cleaning as I actually do working, because every time I do a phase, I move everything out of the way, clean, put it all back. It just makes it easier when you're in the thick of it, you know? Alright, well, look what's back. Winter. So this turned out pretty good. I think right now what I'm going to do is go through this harness and start stripping it out to the bare minimum for what you need to run this truck. And I would like to start it, and if it wasn't snowing, I would literally take it down the street, but the weather's crap and it's cold and I don't even have doors on it or the floor welded all the way. So yeah, but let me see if I can get this stripped out and fired up. Trailer brake plug, we're gonna end up using that. The overhead temperature, outside temperature, and trip plus lights. That'll be good for a headliner when they go to put that in. This is firewall penetration. Yeah, I gotta lay this all out and start cutting all this crap off of here, and it's sticky. So within a few minutes, I'll be so sticky that I'll be able to just go like this and pick it up. So I have to put gloves on, and I got to go through all this. So if I plug this in and hook up a battery, everything is plugged in, the grounds are attached, maybe it will start. I hope it will. So the cluster is down there. It looks like I'm able to not touch this dash. I might have to trim it a little, but I don't know until I get in there and feel the tilt in the seat. But let me get a battery. Red, black. Just got to make sure this doesn't touch anything. Nice big piece of rubber. Yeah, signs of life. That's a bonus. That particularly means dead battery, maybe bad connections, not enough amps. Do I have fuel? Yeah, I hear the pump. Did I leave anything disconnected? Something's unplugged. Something is definitely unplugged. Unless, of course, it's the nightmare security system, because if it has anything to do with the remote start and security, that's gone. I gotta double check a couple of these. So it's possible that it's just low voltage, because I've been through a bunch of basic tests. Shouldn't be. It's 12.3. That should be enough. Fine. Let's try something. I did a quick read of the codes, and it said low voltage, which fine, I get that. But 12.3 is low? Really? We started cars with less than that.
get in it and see if it'll do a burnout, which of course it will.
As you can see, this tailgate is in fantastic condition. On old patina trucks, I don't care if it's rusty and beat up. I mean, half this truck is that way anyway. The problem lies in the hinge that doesn't work. And somebody, this is normally a rolled piece of steel with these hinge studs in the end of it. And somebody drove a piece of 3/4 iron pipe through it and welded the hinges on, but then it rusted into oblivion. So I'm going to take those all out. I'm going to cut this all apart, and I'm going to replace these two tubes. And I have some hinge plugs that I'll put in the ends, and then I'll probably reuse that. But these edges are going to be gone. I'm going to save the tailgate, because I mean, after all, it's all about that stamping. Because you can remake one of these that are plain, but that takes away the soul of the truck. You need that. quite a while, and honestly, I could have cut this piece out 100% and remade all of these pieces, but we're not restoring it. We're just putting it together so it's on the road. But the hinges function as they should once it's bolted into the truck. And it's now a solid tailgate. So there, now you don't have to look around for a mid tailgate, or, you know, it wouldn't work the way we had it. No, that's pretty good. I mean, it could always be better, but that's not this kind of build. These types of trucks are made to be fun to drive. They're not made to be restored in perfection. All right, well, that's pretty good. Now, I realistically could have made it perfect, but why? This isn't that kind of truck. This truck's for doing burnouts and going to get ice cream or beer. Okay, we got the tailgate rebuilt, and I just brought in the bed sides and the bulkhead. I'm going to make sure that they line up with the body lines, and then I can start sectioning the bed sides and eyeballing what those are going to take, which I already know. I already pretty much know what they are. I think I'm going to come back out in the morning and do a burnout right here in the garage because it's so cold, and working by yourself, there's nobody to film out there, and we're just going to let it rip. I think that'd make me happy. I gave up smoking a long time ago. It looks like I just started. So of course it will do a burnout. It's only a one-legger or a one-wheel peel, but that's going to get fixed with some gears later on. I just wanted to get to a point where I could share this much enthusiasm with you, the viewer. Thanks, as always, for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. It's so cold outside. Thanks. I'll see you soon.